Hey everyone, Khalid here. Welcome back to Clinical Physio. Today we're going to go through the clinical anatomy of one of the most important muscles in the calf, which is the gastrocnemius muscle. So let's dive into the anatomy as well as how we find clinical conditions are relevant to this particular muscle. So first of all, when we look at the gastrocnemius, the first really obvious thing to say is that it has two heads. It has a medial head, which is on the medial side, and a lateral head, which is on the lateral side. And if we look again from this view, we can see these two heads. And one really important thing to notice is how the medial head is slightly bigger and longer than the lateral head. This does have a clinical impact, and we'll look at that later. So if we look at these heads at their origin points, we can see that both of them originate from the femur and that they cross the knee joint at their origin. We can see that the lateral head originates from the lateral femoral condyle on its lateral side, and the medial head originates from the medial femoral condyle on its medial side. And if we have another look at the muscle from this angle here, we can see how they run over the top of the condyles and then cross over the knee joint. So then the gastrocnemius heads run down through the posterior calf before they insert into the Achilles tendon, the really important tendon on the posterior-inferior aspect of the lower leg. And we can see how the Achilles tendon inserts into the posterior surface of the calcaneus, and that is the Achilles tendon there. So the major action of the gastrocnemius is twofold. The one that is probably most familiar with is plantar flexion of the foot, where we can see that contraction of the muscle belly will lift up the heel and therefore move the foot into plantar flexion. But as we said, it's important to note how this muscle crosses over the knee joint, and therefore it has a role, perhaps a weaker role, but a role nonetheless in knee flexion. So that's really important also to think about when it comes to the action of this muscle. So if we think about the nerve supply for the gastrocnemius muscle, it is innervated by the tibial nerve, particularly from the nerve roots of S1 and S2. Now, the really easy thing to remember is that all the muscles in the posterior calf and lower leg region are all innervated by the tibial nerve. So that would be the gastrocnemius, but other muscles of the triceps suri, including the soleus, we have the plantaris, we also have other muscles in the posterior inferior leg, such as tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, and flexor hallucis longus, all innervated by the tibial nerve. The tibial nerve is one of the key branches of the sciatic nerve, and that is relevant to the clinical aspect of sciatica, which we will come to later. But for now, important to remember that the tibial nerve supplies the gastrocnemius. And in terms of the blood supply, the major artery that supplies the gastrocnemius is the popliteal artery, the artery that runs through the popliteal fossa, the natural crease in the posterior aspect of the knee, and that is the popliteal artery, which provides blood to the gastrocnemius. But we can also remember that there are other arteries, including the lateral and medial sural arteries, which are also said to provide blood to the gastrocnemius. So now let's talk about clinical conditions, and there are a couple of really important scenarios that I want to mention that will be relevant to your clinical practice. So the first one is a gastrocnemius strain or a calf strain, which you will see all the time in practice, where someone has been doing something sporting most of the time and we find themselves that they're pushing off onto a plantar flex foot, and sometimes the strain going through the calf is too much there. I can think about patients that I've had in the past who maybe have been playing tennis and have jumped to do a serve and have felt their gastrocnemius strain, people who have been sprinting and feel this sudden cramping type sensation in the back of the leg, and even to the more severe calf strains where people say it almost feels as if they've been shot in the back of the leg because it's so painful. Now, one thing that's important to mention here is how the medial head of the gastrocnemius is suggested to be more likely to strain than the lateral head. Two key reasons behind this. The first one is what we mentioned earlier. Notice how the medial head is slightly longer and larger than the lateral head, which therefore suggests that because it's longer and larger, for it to contract, it has to do so over a longer length, which can make it more irritated, but also the suggestion that because it's bigger, more force goes through that side. So you will notice medial calf strains more commonly than lateral. But the other thing to consider is the position of the foot. So when the foot is in a laterally rotated position, it's going to lengthen the medial head more. You can imagine that when the foot is laterally rotated to the side, it means the medial structures are going to lengthen. And if we think about situations where we're sprinting or jumping, it's more likely that the foot is going to be in a slightly everted or laterally rotated position than an internally rotated position, which is another reason why the medial gastroc is more likely to strain than the lateral side. So the other clinical condition I really wanted to point out to you is sciatica, relevant to the tibial nerve. So we said that the tibial nerve is a key branch of the sciatic nerve, and we said that the tibial nerve from the nerve roots S1, S2 innervates the gastrocnemius. So the reason this is relevant is that we will see patients in our practice with sciatica who may present with weakness in the calf, and they are unable to perform a heel raise when they have motor weakness to the gastrocnemius, particularly if they have a lumbar spine pathology which affects the nerve roots of S1, S2. The L5-S1 nerve root is one that can be very vulnerable to pathology at the lumbar spine because it's on one of the lower levels, and therefore when you see patients who are unable to heel raise, you can think about the gastrocnemius because we know that the tibial nerve is supplied from S1, S2. And if we think about the S1 myotome, when we're thinking about our myotomal testing, the S1 myotome is for plantar flexion. So therefore, if you see patients who are unable to push up onto their foot and they have low back pain and back pain running down the leg, you can think of the S1 myotome and therefore the S1 nerve root, which may be the one that is problematic. Now, of course, there are other issues that could involve the gastrocnemius muscle relevant to the Achilles tendon. So please do look out for our next clinical anatomy video on clinical anatomy of the Achilles tendon, where we'll go through things like Achilles tendinopathy and Achilles ruptures, which naturally have relevance to the gastrocnemius. So everyone, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please support us by smashing that like button. It's the #1 way that you can help our channel. And we've got more brilliant resources on our Instagram account at Clinical Physio. Please do make sure to give us a follow on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Khalid. See you soon here on Clinical Physio.